Today in the Fresh Brew Run Club, my name was not picked to run the Chicago Marathon. Welcome back to the Fresh Brew Run Club. So for today's video, not the greatest news in the world, but the other day I got an email from the Chicago Marathon saying that I did not win the lottery to run in the 2023 race. So the Chicago Marathon is one of 6 major marathons. So it is right up there with the Boston Marathon, London, Tokyo, a couple different other ones, but it is a major marathon in both the literal major, 6 major sense, but also it's just a massive marathon. I've always wanted to run it, and 2023 felt like the right time to run it. So last year I ran in the Cleveland Marathon, I got my PR, I felt pretty good, but I also felt like there was a little bit of meat left on the bones. It was a little bit windy, conditions weren't ideal, there were some hills I didn't totally expect, and I like I said, I ran my PR, but I didn't do as good as I thought maybe I could have. So Chicago seemed like the perfect opportunity. It's a flat course, it's in the Midwest, it seemed great. So in order to run this race, there's a lottery. So you put your name in and they do a drawing. And if your name is picked, then you have the privilege of paying the entry fee and running the Chicago Marathon. Well, my name was not picked for 2023, which is not super surprising. It's a massively popular marathon. Tons of people apply. I think there's only about 40,000 people that can actually run, which seems like a big number, but for this marathon, I'm sure there are 2, 3, 4 times as many people actually applying to run in this race. So disappointing, but not super surprising, although I did kind of count my chickens before they hatched, where I had a bunch of ideas and plans to make sort of a training series about building up to Chicago. That is now all scrapped. I even made an intro, which I thought was really good, and I don't know, I spent too much time on it that, I don't know, I'll just play right here because I like it, but otherwise I gotta toss that in the trash. So I'm not bitter, I'm just kind of sad that it didn't work out. I still want to run a marathon in 2023, specifically in the fall of 2023, so that's where I can use your help. So like I said, I want to run a fall marathon. I ran the spring marathon last year. I really did not like it. Most of the training took place in January and February when the weather is miserable. March is also like miserable. It's my least favorite temperature, 37 degrees for most of March. And then you get into May and it's like unseasonably warm. So it's just not good. Whereas fall, you train when it's hot out, which I would rather run in the heat than in the icy cold temperatures of Michigan. And then the temperature starts to cool as you start to peak in your training. So like you're running your best as the temperature is the most ideal. That's why I want to do a fall marathon. That's why I like fall marathon. So I want to keep that going. So there's a few criteria that I have for my fall marathon. So keep this in mind before you leave a suggestion in the comments below for what I should do. The first of which, I want to run a real marathon. I don't want to do a gimmicky thing. I don't want to do a color run, or I don't want to do a marathon with obstacles or, something out in the woods with mud. I just want to run a regular official race where I get a chip and I'm timed and my results are on a website that I can look at later, maybe even a photographer to take my picture so I can, hang something up behind me after the marathon is done. I want to run an official race. So throw out all the gimmicky stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm looking to get a PR, not necessarily get, covered in Nickelodeon slime. The second thing I want to do, I want it to be within driving distance of Metro Detroit. I don't want to have to fly to the marathon. I want to be able to pack as many bags as I can fit into my car, prepare for all types of weather, bring all kinds of stuff. I don't want to have to make choices of what do I bring in my carry-on bag versus, the bag that I'm checking, what do I leave behind. I don't want to have to make any of those choices. I want to be able to drive to the actual marathon. So driving distance for me is, I would say, within 5 hours maximum, ideally within 4 hours. Keep that in mind. That's really going to limit it to like mostly Midwest marathons. The third criteria that I have, I want to run a city marathon. So I know there's a lot of marathons that are like trail runs or out in like the countryside, and those are cool. Nothing wrong with those. I just like running in a city just in general. I think it's more visually stimulating. Like you look around at the architecture and the cars and all the stuff going on. I also think that marathons in cities have better crowds that are like cheering you on. There's people along the sides. It's just more exciting. Plus, if I'm staying overnight somewhere, there's probably going to be more hotel options at a city marathon versus a marathon in the middle, in the middle of nowhere, where I have to like find a short-term rental or some hotel that's like a far away drive from where the actual marathon is. I don't want to deal with that. The fourth criteria I want it to be relatively flat. So I am looking to get a PR. So I don't want to do some massively hilly course. If there's some hills, that's fine. I mean, I don't think any course maybe besides Chicago is going to be perfectly flat. So I'm okay with a little bit of hills, but really I don't want that to be like the main focus. Like, oh, at the mile 20, you got to climb this mountain. No thanks. I just want a relatively flat course that is going to allow me to run my fastest possible time. So those are the parameters of what I'm looking for in a marathon. I know that does limit my options significantly. I did a little bit of research on my own, and really there's 3 marathons that stood out as possibilities for me. If there are other ones, again, please leave a comment, suggest your favorite marathon within those parameters. But here's the 3 that I saw that I think are pretty good options. I'd love everybody's opinion on which one of these 3 or additional marathons that I should run. The first of which is Detroit. So I've run the Detroit Marathon 2 times. It was the first marathon I ever ran. I've actually never run a good race in Detroit. I've always fallen apart. The first time I ever ran a marathon was the classic, like, I'm feeling really good at mile 8, so I'm going to increase my pace from 10-minute miles to 8-minute miles, which is just a horrible idea. I absolutely fell apart at around mile 19, mile 20, right on Belle Isle and after Belle Isle, if you're familiar with that race. So that was horrible. The second time I ran the race, I was a little more disciplined, but again, went out too fast, didn't fuel right, didn't hydrate right, got major like leg pains. I don't know. I don't have great memories running the Detroit Marathon, but it's also an opportunity for me to like redeem myself and actually run a good race there. So that's good. It's also within driving distance. Like I can sleep in my own bed the night before and then just drive right down. So that's pretty easy. I've run it before. I know the course. It's a great course. It's really cool. You get to start downtown Detroit. You cross the bridge into Canada as the sun is rising. You run in Canada with like the friendliest people alongside the race. You come back to the United States in Detroit. There's like really great areas that you're running through. I did a review of the actual course, and I almost ran the full marathon. I ran the half this year, but I almost ran the full marathon because the new course was so awesome. So it's a great course. I've just run it a bunch of different times. So I don't know, it's not super exciting to me. It's not like a unique new experience. Like I've done 2 marathons, 2 half marathons. I've done the relay, like I've done the turkey trot, like I've run races downtown Detroit. It's nothing special or nothing new to me, but it is a really good course. So that's kind of my number 1 option. The number 2 option I'm looking at is the Grand Rapids Marathon. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I ran the half marathon of the same race, and it was good. I like Grand Rapids. It's an awesome city. I went to college there for 4 years. I'm very familiar with downtown Grand Rapids and the surrounding area. However, the course wasn't my favorite. Like you start downtown and then you kind of cross the river. You go west of the river, and it's like kind of in this like nowhere land. Like there really wasn't anything great. It was kind of like there's trees, and it was like sort of muddy, and like I just didn't really love the course. There's also some hills that caught me by surprise a little bit. So not a huge fan of the course, but it was a great race. It was well run. It starts and ends right downtown, which is cool. There's a lot of fans. I have family and friends in Grand Rapids, which is always a nice bonus. It's within driving distance. It's just a very well-run race. I'm just not super fired up about the actual course itself. So the third option I have could be the Ann Arbor Marathon. So I know nothing about the Ann Arbor Marathon. I looked at the website, got some information. I looked at the elevation chart. It looks like it's kind of flat, but there might be some hills. So I'm very curious if you've run the Ann Arbor Marathon before, like what is that like? Is it super hilly, or is it just medium hills? I can't really tell. It starts downtown Ann Arbor, seems to go around some nice areas. I love the Ann Arbor area. Like there's a lot to see. It's just a very beautiful area. So you run along the river. I mean, that could be very nice. I just don't know much about running in Ann Arbor. So I don't know, let me know. It's close enough where I can get up that morning and drive to the race as opposed to having to stay in a hotel and sleep in an unfamiliar bed, blah, blah, blah. So that's nice, but I just don't know much about it, which could be a good thing. Maybe I'm not used to it. I don't know what to expect. So maybe that'll make the miles go faster as I'm kind of like figuring out where to go. I don't know. I'm not sure that is the race that I'm going to be able to get a PR at. Who knows? So those are kind of the top 3 that I'm thinking of. If there are races that I'm missing that I'm not thinking of, definitely let me know. I'm open to anything at this point. I have some time. That's what I'm thinking for my 2023 marathon. Again, very disappointing that I am not going to be able to run Chicago. I don't know. I'm going to keep applying for Chicago in the future, but in the meantime, help me out. Help me figure out what race I should do in the fall of 2023 based on your opinion. Maybe there is a race that I should fly to that I just can't miss that fits my parameters with the exception of the driving distance one. Let me know too, like what's your favorite marathon? I eventually would love to fly to a marathon, but for the sake of 2023, it's just gonna be easier for me to drive to wherever I'm going. So That is my long-winded way of asking for help. Please let me know what I should do next year for my fall marathon. Let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, that is today's video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you soon.